In the late 1990s, in the middle of Los Angeles traffic, something unusual was happening. A small, silent car would glide past gas stations without slowing down. No engine noise, no exhaust, no gasoline smell. And the people driving it genuinely loved it. Then one day, the company that built it took it back and crushed almost every single one. This wasn't a prototype. It wasn't a failed experiment. It was called the GM EV1, and for a brief moment, the future had already arrived. So why did it disappear? And now that electric cars dominate headlines and investment plans, what exactly happened the first time? To understand that, we have to go back to a problem the auto industry did not want to solve. In 1990, the California Air Resources Board passed a rule that quietly unsettled car manufacturers. By 1998, a percentage of vehicles sold in California would have to produce zero emissions, not lower, not cleaner, zero. That single regulation pushed companies like General Motors into territory they had avoided for nearly a century: battery-powered cars. General Motors did not do this out of idealism. They did it because they were required to. And unexpectedly, they did it well. The EV1 was sleek, smooth, aerodynamic. It looked almost futuristic for its time. It accelerated quickly. It required very little maintenance. Drivers plugged it in at night and woke up to a full charge. No oil changes. No transmission problems. No tailpipe. People who leased it became deeply attached. Some drivers later said it was the best car they had ever owned, which makes what happened next feel even more confusing, because the EV1 was never sold. It was only leased. General Motors kept ownership of every vehicle. When the leases ended, customers were told they had to return the car. They could not buy it. They could not extend the lease forever. They could not keep it, even when they asked, even when they pleaded. Many drivers protested outside GM facilities, asking for the chance to purchase the cars they had grown to love. They offered to waive warranties. They offered to pay more. It did not change the outcome. GM collected the cars. Then most of them were crushed, not resold, not quietly stored away, destroyed. Publicly, the explanation was straightforward. The cars were too expensive to produce. The batteries were limited. There wasn't enough demand. And to be fair, this was the late 1990s. Battery technology was far less advanced than today. Charging infrastructure was almost non-existent. Range anxiety was a serious concern. But here's the contradiction. If there wasn't demand, why were customers fighting to keep them? If the technology was hopeless, why did drivers speak about them with such loyalty? And if electric cars were a dead end, why are they now considered inevitable? To answer that, you have to look beyond the car itself. The EV1 did not just challenge gasoline, it challenged an entire economic structure. Traditional automakers did not only sell vehicles, they sold parts, maintenance, repairs. Engines made of thousands of moving components. Electric cars simplify that system dramatically. Fewer parts, fewer breakdowns, less service revenue. For dealerships and manufacturers built around internal combustion engines, the EV1 was not simply a new product. It was a disruption to the foundation of their business. Then there was oil. In the late 1990s, climate urgency was not part of daily conversation. Gasoline was inexpensive. SUV sales were rising. Automotive culture was built around size, power, and long road trips. A small two-seat electric coupe did not fit that image. And when political pressure around zero-emission mandates began to soften, so did the urgency to continue the program. The California requirement was adjusted. Legal challenges reduced strict quotas. Without strong regulatory force, the incentive shifted. In 2003, GM canceled the EV1 program. Officially, the reason was economics. Unofficially, it was timing. The world was not ready. Or perhaps the surrounding system was not ready. Here is the uncomfortable part. The EV1 may have been technologically early, but strategically inconvenient. It proved something important. Electric cars were not science fiction. They functioned. They were practical. They were enjoyable to drive. And if consumers fully embraced that idea too soon, it would require the industry to transform before it wanted to. So the cars disappeared. For a while, the story seemed finished. Gasoline continued to dominate roads. Hybrid vehicles appeared cautiously. Electric cars became a niche idea. Then, in 2008, a small startup from Silicon Valley began delivering a fully electric sports car, not because regulators demanded it, but because battery technology had improved. That company was Tesla. This time, the story did not fade quietly. Advances in lithium-ion batteries, helped by the growth of consumer electronics, changed the economics. Driving range increased. Charging networks expanded. Climate discussions became more urgent. Governments introduced new incentives, and gradually, the same automakers that once paused their electric efforts began announcing large EV investments. Today, nearly every major manufacturer is committing billions to electric platforms. Headlines talk about the eventual end of the combustion engine. Countries set timelines for phasing out gasoline cars. It feels like a dramatic shift. But shifts like this rarely begin where we expect. The EV1 was not a failure in the way people often assume. It was a preview that arrived before the environment around it could support it. A product born from regulation, supported by early adopters, and ended by changing incentives. Some people frame the story as corporate sabotage. Others see it as simple technological immaturity. The truth is more complex. Large systems resist change not necessarily out of malice, but because they are optimized for the present. And when the present is profitable, the future can feel risky. In the 1990s, the infrastructure was limited. The batteries were expensive. The culture was not aligned. The oil market was stable. The pressure was not strong enough to outweigh the disruption. So the safer decision prevailed. 2 decades later, the variables shifted. Battery costs declined. Software became central to vehicles. Climate policy strengthened. Public perception evolved. Now the same transformation that once seemed premature is viewed as necessary. Looking back, the EV1 feels almost symbolic. Footage of a silver coupe being loaded onto a truck, drivers holding signs, a car that moved silently into history. It is tempting to ask, what if GM had continued? What if electric vehicles had scaled in 2000 instead of 2020? Would cities look different today? Would oil demand have peaked earlier? Would climate timelines have shifted? Perhaps. Or perhaps the broader system would have resisted the change anyway, because innovation does not depend only on invention. It depends on alignment, technology, policy, economics, culture, timing. Miss one of those and even a working solution can quietly disappear. The EV1 was not destroyed because electric cars were impossible. It disappeared because the world around it was not configured to support what it represented. Today, electric vehicles dominate headlines. They symbolize progress, climate awareness, technological change. But their origin story is not only about engineering, it is about incentives, about structure, about when change becomes unavoidable instead of optional. And that leaves us with a quieter question. If the future can exist once and then be removed, how many other ideas are we setting aside today, not because they fail, but because they do not yet fit the system around them?